Ever feel like you're walking a tightrope? Like, in one hand, you've got all the amazing tech, right? New phone, cool apps, the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the other hand, there's this, like, nagging feeling,
Yeah.
this worry that none of it's actually secure.
Right.
Like, are we really trading privacy for convenience with all this?
Yeah.
And that is exactly why we were diving into Paul Laureano's blog for this deep dive. The guy's an IT veteran, knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And his take on security, convenience, and shiny toys is brutally honest, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So he kicks things off with this analogy, and it's a bit jarring, honestly. Imagine, like, cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
But built with zero safety regulation.
Oh, wow.
No seatbelts, no airbags,
Yeah.
just pure speed and sleek design. Scary thought.
Yeah.
But according to Paulo, that's kind of where we're at with software right now.
And the thing is, that directly impacts us as users, right?
Hmm.
We see these headlines all the time. Data breaches, companies losing tons of user info because of, like, software flaws. And it happens partly because, unlike, say, car companies, software companies, they're not really held liable for shipping out products with security holes.
It's the Wild West out there.
Exactly.
Called words, not mine. But it's not just chaos, right? There are reasons why it's so hard to hold these companies accountable.
Absolutely. I mean, one, software is ridiculously complex. Like, finding the exact cause of a vulnerability, that's tough. And proving negligence on top of that, even harder.
Yeah.
And then there's the speed. Tech moves so fast, by the time a problem is fixed, everyone's moved on to the next big thing.
So we're stuck in this cycle where security is always, like, playing catch up. How do we even get out of this mess?
Well, some folks, they're pushing for tougher rules. You know, make companies legally responsible for security flaws, just like with cars.
Interesting.
Others are all about security by design, so baking it into the process from the start.
It makes you wonder why those things aren't already happening.
Right.
Okay, moving on to something that always makes me sweat a little.
Yeah.
Passwords.
Yeah.
Paulo doesn't hold back here. He basically says those complex strings we rely on, useless under pressure.
Yeah.
He paints this picture. Someone's got a hammer, they want your passcode, you're really going to say no.
Right.
Highlights how relying on willpower alone to protect info is kind of naive.
Yeah. No amount of willpower is going to stop a crowbar.
Exactly. So if passwords are the weak link, what's the answer?
Paulo's really into these things called hardware security keys, specifically ones using that FIDO2 protocol.
Okay, like Yubico keys. I've seen those, but never really.
Yeah, like those. They seem kind of spy movie-ish, but the tech is actually pretty cool.
Okay, so break it down. Tiny key. How is that making my online life safer?
So think of it like an actual key, but for your digital stuff. You plug it in instead of typing a password,
Okay.
and it confirms who you are to, like, the website or whatever through this super secure handshake.
Right.
And that handshake, it uses this FIDO2 protocol, which is really hard to fake or intercept. Way more secure than even the most complicated password.
So like this super secure handshake instead of memorizing 50 different passwords?
Mm.
I'm into it. Actually, you convinced me to get one the other day.
Yeah.
Surprisingly easy to set up,
Oh, totally. And, like, when you combine that with a good password manager.
which he's also a big fan of.
Yeah, Paulo's always recommending those.
Rightfully so.
Big time. Bitwarden is his favorite, but there are other good ones. Point is, you're adding those layers of protection.
Layers. Love it. Okay, switching gears a bit here. Let's talk about the actual devices, right? Our phones, our laptops. Paulo makes this point that making your phone super secure is like, I don't know, turning a race car into an off-road vehicle.
Yeah. Like, you can try.
But it wasn't built for that.
Exactly. He says our devices are just too multi-purpose now, too interconnected, meant for convenience, not necessarily a fortress.
Right.
Think about it. We use our phones for banking, social media, work emails.
Yeah.
Heck, even controlling the lights in our houses.
And a lot to secure.
All in this one little device, yeah?
Yeah, like all your eggs in one very fragile basket. So what's the alternative then? Paulo wants us all to like dish our smartphones and live off the grid.
Well, he does touch on digital minimalism, like being mindful of how reliant we are on these do-everything gadgets.
Okay.
But what I found really interesting is that he gets into this idea of security by compartmentalization. Specifically, this operating system, Queebs OS.
All right, so now I'm picturing like actual walls, digital rooms for different online activities.
Exactly, you got it. It's about dividing your digital life up.
Right?
One for work stuff, one for personal, one for online banking, whatever. With something like Queebs, even if one of those gets compromised.
The others are safe.
isolated.
Protected.
So it's like having separate operating systems all within your computer. That sounds pretty intense for the average person, though. Yeah, you do need to be a bit tech savvy for that one, not gonna lie. It's not for everybody, but it does challenge this assumption that we have to sacrifice security for convenience.
Right.
Queves is like, nope, we can prioritize security from the start.
I like that. A good reminder, there are always different ways to do things, even if they're not like the mainstream way.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that often get overlooked, Paulo also gets into Microsoft Office macros.
Oh, yeah. This is where his user-centric thing really comes out. He knows how powerful macros are, especially for those power users. Automating tasks, getting stuff done.
Huge productivity boost.
Huge. But he's also real about the security risks that come with them.
Yeah, it's like he's got this love-hate thing with macros, recognizes what they can do, but also chaos potential.
Totally.
He mentioned sandboxing, which I think is important to unpack here.
Absolutely. So sandboxing is basically making this safe, isolated space on your computer
Okay.
where you can run like risky programs, code, macros, whatever, without it messing with your whole system. Like a virtual sandbox. Let the kids play. They can't wreck the whole house.
I love that analogy.
Right.
So it's like a safety net.
Yeah.
You can experiment with these powerful tools without worrying you're going to break everything.
Right.
I remember when I first discovered macros, it was like unlocking a secret level in Excel. It was empowering, you know?
Totally.
But there was always this part of me that was like, ooh, what if I mess this up? What if I unleash something terrible?
And that's exactly what Laureano is getting at, right? He's saying, yeah, sandboxing is great. It helps. But it's not foolproof.
Right.
You still got to be careful, especially in those corporate settings. One bad macro, whole system could go down. Oh, yeah. High stakes. It really is like giving someone a chainsaw, but no training, no safety gear. Sure, they might get the job done quicker,
Right.
but the risk of, disaster, way higher.
Way higher. And it kind of brings us back to Laureano's main point.
Yeah.
Instead of just making these crazy, complex security systems, these walls everywhere,
Yeah.
what if we figured out why users try to get around them in the first place?
Like
Like, what if we design systems that actually work with human behavior, not against it?
That really resonates with me because how many times have I made another ridiculous password? I know I'm going to forget it, but it's like the secure option was just too annoying.
Right.
Or I'm putting off those security updates, remind me later because I'm in the middle of something.
Exactly. It's those little frictions.
Where security clashes with like our natural human desire to just get things done. That's what Laureano wants us to pay attention to.
Yeah.
He's saying if we can make things secure and frictionless, that's where the real change happens.
So it's about working with human nature, not trying to force it into this box. And I think that's a good note for all of us, right? Not just telling people you should do this for security, but understanding why they might not. And then making the secure choice the easy choice.
Exactly. And it takes a shift, right? For the people building the tech, but also us using it. Security can't be this burden, this chore. It's got to be something we're all in on.
Yeah. A shared responsibility, really.
Totally. You're going to be informed, ask questions, not just blindly trust whatever new gadget comes out.
Absolutely. True security. It's not about being like digitally invincible. It doesn't exist.
Right.
It's about making smart choices, knowing the trade-offs.
Yeah.
Because this tech landscape,
Yeah.
always changing.
Always. And honestly, never forgetting that it's all about us. Humans are at the heart of all of this.
Perfectly said. That's a great place to wrap things up. Big thanks to Paulo Laureano for really giving us a lot to think about.
Absolutely.
And to you listening, hope this deep dive gave you some food for thought for your own digital adventures out there. Until next time, happy diving.